Readers. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am joined here with Dr. Michael Turley. He is candidate for Jefferson County Judge. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So go ahead and let us know who you are, what you've done. Tell us about your degrees. Bring us up to date.
Okay. My name is Michael Turley. My French name is unpronounceable, but my mom is my mom is full French Canadian. I'm half French Canadian. But I grew up in Southern California in Montreal, and then entered the Air Force around 17, 18 years old, and never looked back. Went into college and completed a degree there in mathematics, and then went and became an Air Force pilot and started flying different places. I was an instructor at the Air Force Academy, and then I started flying C-130s, which was airlift. But I really found a home when I became an interpreter in French, and then I was in Italy doing interpreting for French, and by the time I had been in Italy for 6 months, I was also doing Italian interpreting. So I returned as an interpreter in both French and Italian. I got my first master's in aeronautical sciences, which was a specialization of understanding the whole national airspace system and how airports work and air traffic works and that stuff, logistics and how everything moves. And then I came back here and retired from the Air Force at Little Rock Air Force Base and couldn't find a job in 2007. But I could teach because I'd been teaching for 19 of the 20 years that I was in the Air Force. So I came down here to Pine Bluff and started teaching emergency management and mathematics down here, and just fell in love with the community, the culture, and the location, which we will talk about maybe later. But just fell in love with this place. I really wanted to stay in teaching, but had to get certified in the civilian world. So I got a Master of Arts in Teaching, and then loved that so much I went ahead and got a PhD in Educational Leadership. Both of those I got from UCA. University of Central Arkansas. And for the first half of them, I was driving up to Conway from Pine Bluff 2 or 3 days a week. And then my third degree I got was a Master of Arts in Romance Languages. I had been chatting with UAPB since 2017 about bringing a French program to their campus. They'd taught French before, and they said, well, in order to teach collegiate French, you have to have a master's in it. So even though I spoke it fluently, I had to get that certification as well. So I went to University of New Orleans to get a very specialized type of master's in Romance languages, which empowered both my French and Italian. And I just completed that in December of this past year. And so I'm excited to have that certification as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of your background. I want to kind of hop into what makes you qualified to be the next county judge for Jefferson County.
Well, one of the areas of expertise that I had in the Air Force was being able to solve significantly complex problems. When I was an interpreter, I went over to Italy and I became the chief of plans and scheduling for all airlift that supported the Bosnia-Herzegovina humanitarian disaster that was going on down there. But what I noticed was that the logistics and the moving parts were much more complex. So I actually wrote the normalization plan to recover that entire nation to civilian control, get it out from under military control and return it to civilians. A few years later, I was called at Little Rock, and I flew down to New Orleans, and I was the first federal officer on the ground in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina hit. And I set up the airport for the medevac side. It was really stuck, and going in to redesign the floor plans and get the whole place going. Again, we were able to start moving thousands of people out through the medical side because we reoriented things. As I've entered down here in Pine Bluff and I started teaching classes down here, I met lots of kids that had chaos in their lives outside of the classes, and I said, okay, that stops at my door. So when the kids came into my classroom, they immediately felt safe. And that was the very first emphasis that I told them all. You know, my stepdaughters are African American, and I made it clear to my students, do not look at me as a white guy. I'm not white. I'm strawberry vanilla with chocolate sprinkles, but I'm French Canadian, and I don't look at things through the lens of the United States. I look at them through the multi-spectrum of other nations. And I lived in 14 time zones in the Air Force, and because I spoke the languages, I was in other cultures. So when I got here and I started seeing this, I could see that one of the things that Pine Bluff and Jefferson County has a trouble with is that it's stuck on itself. It's stuck in that binary black-white conversation, that racist and that poverty and that, big money conversation. And I'm like, somebody's got to change this. but it's difficult to change it from inside the system. And so I felt, especially with the emphasis that I bring to safety, and you can look up any of my students that are former students of mine will tell you that's one of the very first things that they felt for me was safe in the space, in the classroom. I even gave up my lunches so my pre-AP kids could work on whatever they wanted to work on safely without having to be worried about being picked on the playground at lunch. So that's where I thought, you know what, if I can do this for my class and I can do this from students, and I've taught at CARC, I've taught in public school district. My stepdaughters went to Watson Chapel. My niece is currently in Whitehall School District, and I've been teaching at UAPB for the last 10 years. Maybe I can help all of our residents of the county to achieve the same level of perceived safety. And that's a really important thing, because safety is, in fact, a perception.
Okay. Well, we have no doubt that you are intelligent, you are well learned and well traveled. But how are you going to bring down what you're saying and what you want to do to the level to where we can understand? Because you're using a lot of jargon that people who are not military may not understand. So can you break down your plan for Jefferson County in layman's terms?
Sure. Let's just ask a straight question. Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe where you live, where you work, who you love, and where you worship? Right now, do you feel safe? If you do, and you think that whoever you vote for is going to help you continue to feel safe or make you feel safer, then you're good, because you already are feeling that. But if you don't feel safe, what's it going to take to help you feel safe? And that's a really important thing. For example, my stepdaughter was coming home on a Friday night a few years ago from a high school football game. She got hit by a drunk driver. She called us immediately. We were responding. I was not available to respond. Her mom responded, got there, and the police were showing up, and things started to go sideways. And when they said, oh, so-and-so's had too much to drink, somebody needs to get him a ride. And they never did a field sobriety check on the other driver. And we had all the geometry. I'm a math teacher. I knew who hit who. And I said, look, we have AAA Premier. The state law allows us to do this, to get our own towing. And they contacted a local towing company who came in and did that. We never got the car back. So I never felt safe. So I knew that if I couldn't trust the police and I couldn't trust the local towing company, I can't feel safe. Folks, if I can't feel safe, I have a strong suspicion that you are suffering from similar types of things. I want to bring that transparency to whoever we work with, whatever we do. I even got a letter of apology from Pine Bluff Police Department for having written the traffic report incorrectly, but they never did any discipline against the police officers that were on the scene. And that doesn't make me feel safe. So when we can cut past all the jargon, we can get to that space. Do you feel safe? And if you don't, then you have to look at the candidates and ask, which county judge candidate can give you the best hope of getting you to a safe place and a safe space? And we'll talk about more about why safety is so important as we hopefully go through the rest of the interview today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as county judge, what are some of the measures that you plan to put in place to ensure safety for the citizens of Jefferson County?
Well, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is how many people know each other in the area and how that influences things. So we've had a lot of nepotism. We've had a lot of cronyism. We've had a lot of, oh, I know so-and-so, that's so-and-so. Cronyism means they're friends either through work or through their fraternity or sorority or through their church or through their basketball team or something like that. They grew up together. They hung out. They remember the stories back when, and now they're in charge, but they're in charge with each other. And they kind of go, hey, you help me out here, I'll help you out there. Okay, we can do that. And that's the part to me that I don't know a lot of people like that. And so I make a lot of those folks nervous that know they have things to hide, because I don't have anything to hide. And I know that when I meet people, especially the other adults that I've made great relationships with in the local area, they've been professional, they've been very transparent, very comfortable with what can we do together to make this place better. And that's the entire focus. Not, hey, let's go to your place and have a drink, or let's go out together and do something else. It's not that. It's entirely about the focus on what that does. So for me, the measurement is simple. Do you trust your local law enforcement? Do you trust your sheriff? Do you trust your Pine Bluff Police Department? Do you trust how you get responses We had a big snowstorm, ice storm a couple weeks ago. Do you trust how the city and the county are responding to clear the roads or to fix potholes or to paint the stripes or to do those other types of pieces? And that's really important to see and feel. And that's where I want to bring those measurable things. There's another thing, too, that's important. We've heard a lot, especially this week with the mayor's veto of the Urban Renewal Agency. We've heard a lot of talk and a lot of discussion about the go-kart track and lots of those projects. One of the things that I'm really adamant about, especially from my background in the military, is you have a contract with me, and I'm funding it as a government agency. I get to see every single penny that you spend. And we don't have that in place in a lot of our current contracts that go into the private contracting business. And so it becomes a question of where's the money? And there's, even in that article, questions and accusations of embezzlement or mismanagement of funds or keeping people in the county or in the city on certain organizations even after having been identified with mismanagement. None of those things, all those things will be cleaned up. None of those things will happen with me because I'm going to look at it and go, what is the transparency? So you notice I keep coming back to that word. But that to me is what's measured. If you can't see it, then it's not safe. You have to be able to see it. And that's what I need you to ask yourself. Just that very simple. Do I feel safe in my current situation with the current judge? Or if not with the current judge, which candidate gives me the best hope of feeling safe where I live, love, work, and worship?
Okay, so you touched on two aspects of safety there. You talked about physically feeling safe in our communities, environments. I think you mentioned churches. You also talked about financial safety. Like, do we feel safe in the county in which we pay our tax dollars? So I think that was two big portions there. So another thing I want to talk to you about is when it comes to Jefferson County and growing economically, bringing in different businesses, infrastructures, opportunities for us to get better jobs with better pay. Do you have anything planned in that arena?
Thanks for asking that, Andrea. So let's take a look at a couple of different things about Jefferson County. If you've been paying any attention to my campaign so far, or attended the forums, or seen some of the posts that I've done online, or interviews with other podcasters, I have two completely big picture visions for Jefferson County in the United States and for UAPB in the world. But those are visions for the county. They're for UAPB as a function of the county. They're not visions of the county. And you mentioned the word growth. Growth is, we could use big words like industry, jobs, careers. No. Jobs is about money, but it's more than money. It's about money and time, because it doesn't do you any good if you make just enough money to get from one paycheck to the next paycheck, but you're making that money having to do 2 or 3 jobs. When I met my stepdaughter's mom, she was working 3 jobs, full-time for the district, and then 2 part-time jobs, and never had a minute to sit down with her daughters and help them with their 10th grade reading or their 10th grade math. You deserve, if you're going to be a parent, you deserve the time to be a parent. And you can't do that if you're too busy just trying to make money at 10 or 12 bucks an hour instead of 18 an hour. For example, a combo meal, a Big Mac combo meal costs $10.18. I just looked it up before I came in here, okay? That's one meal for one person. If you're a family of 3, you can't feed people on one combo meal. So you buy 3 of those, that's 30 bucks. But you're only making 10 bucks an hour, you're only bringing home 7. It costs you 4 hours of work just to buy one meal for 3 people. There's no time. You have to go get the next job. I'm planning to bring in jobs that are paying 18, 20, 25, even without college degrees. Amazon pays 18 an hour up at the Bryant warehouse, and they shut the Bryant warehouse down. If we could convince Amazon to put a warehouse right here, 15 minutes away instead of an hour. My oldest stepdaughter was driving to that one, so it was costing her 2 hours of time, round trip, every day, 5 days a week, to work up there. That is $100 in gas that she could have saved, plus 8 hours instead of 10 hours that she could have gotten back, not having to drive all the way to Bryant to try to work for 18 bucks an hour. We need those types of jobs right here. but you deserve to have jobs that are paying you the level that you have time to use the money to do other things. I get real frustrated at what I call the big C capitalists, Walmart and Dillard's and other big corporations pay $30, 30 hours, and they don't hire people full time. So you don't get a lot of the good additional medical benefits and those kinds of things, but they also don't pay vacation. So let's say that you're lucky enough to get a paid vacation. That's 2 weeks of pay, but that doesn't pay you to go anywhere. It just pays you to sit right there. You deserve to make enough money where you can actually save some of it so that when you get that 2 weeks of vacation, you have the time to go to do something with it, whether it's hot springs and Magic Springs, or whether it's Branson and Silver Dollar City, or whether it's the big ones like Disney World. But you can go to Magic, Six Flags in Dallas. We can't do that if all we're doing is chasing $10 an hour jobs around here, and we're all working 2 to 3 jobs because we can't put it together with just $10 an hour jobs. We have to find the time to get our lives back, folks. And that's what my goal is. And that's the conversations I've already been having, is how to bring those $18, $20, and $25 jobs here without you having to go out and get a 4-year degree to get them.
Right. So you mentioned that you would bring in the bigger jobs that get us more money, even if you don't have a college degree. Then you also mentioned going outside of the city limits or the county to spend that said money to invest it elsewhere. So are you going to do anything to improve the quality of life in Jefferson County, where if we do have a vacation, we have things right here that we can reinvest into our own economic infrastructure to have a good time?
Andrea, that is the best question that you could possibly ask. I was just Saturday night up in Little Rock, and I volunteer to usher at the Robinson Center. And so afterwards went with friends to a local place there. And we saw 4 20-year-olds, all females. It was Valentine's night, 2 married, 2 unmarried, no guys bothering them. They were hanging out together, dressed up for Valentine's, but just playing board games. And when I sat down and asked them, I said, why are you doing this here, Nate? Until closing, and because we feel safe. They could walk in their cars right outside. And it's on Soma. If you're not familiar with that, that's South Main. Folks, we have a Soma, Pine Bluff. We just don't have any businesses. We tried to start some things, and we immediately had problems with the 18 to 20-year-olds trying to get in at places where it's legal to drink, but we were having people try to get in and drink illegally, and so the place got shut down. We do not have a university city park for our college students, nor do we have it for our visiting athletes who bring thousands of dollars with them when they come in here for a football game or basketball game, because they usually spend the night. But they don't have any place to stay. So they actually stay and bus in, just in, and bus out, and bus because they can't locally. We need to convert everything east of University, from Fluker all the way up to McFadden. Because McFadden, if you haven't noticed, is where the new Torrey Hunter baseball complex is. That whole area right up to the lake, we could turn into a university center. But nobody's talking about it. Why? Because they're talking about the downtown Main Street sidewalks and the small businesses they're trying to put in there. But I'm going to leave that to the city. But have you seen the new ad for Skateland? Now, I'm not promoting Skateland here, but I did see that they've under new management and they have certain hours and they're trying to do new things. My goal is to intentionally build things for adolescents, so 15 to 20. And I mean 20 because 21 is our legal drinking age. And then we have places for what I like to call the prodigal saddle, that 18 to 25-year group. But we want 21 to 25-year-olds to feel safe here. And then we have to have places for those families, 25s to 35s, who have kids. Where are our parks that kids can feel safe at? Now, we have the brand new pickleball thing up there on Main, and I think it's 3rd, right next to Senator Flowers' building. But that's not necessarily a place where people want to go at night to hang out. We have to fix those pieces. And that's the kind of vision we have to have. To me, a go-kart track, that's a Branson thing. That's middle income, upper income, especially $20 for a $10-minute ride. That's not the pricing. That's not the way the model works. Did we ask our 18 to 20-year-olds what they wanted? And we know as adults, a place to drink is not the right answer. Okay. So we know that we have to build things in that they can feel good about, whether it's a laser tag facility or whether, I don't know. I'm not 18 to 20. I don't know what current 18 to 20-year-olds want, but we didn't ask them when we started building things for them. And they're like, yeah, really? You missed us. And that's what we have to fix. So that's my goal, is to build those intentional locations that address those very specific different age groups so that they can feel that sense of space. And it's actually known as the third space theory. You can look it up, third place theory and third space theory. Someplace you can go safe that's other than work and home.
Okay. Well, we've heard about how you want to make us feel safer physically and financially with knowing where our tax dollars are going. We talked about bringing more jobs to bring us more money, more revenue. Then you also talked about giving us a better quality of life to help us to have establishments and businesses that we can go to when we're off and ready to spend those dollars that you helped us save. Question, as a business owner and as someone who's married to a local business owner, do you have any plans to partner with us in your plans to better the quality of life? Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
And a beautiful way to say this is, so many people are so used to government and private industry being separated and that you can't deal one with another unless it's like big defense contracts. But what we just see happening at Pine Bluff Arsenal, even though it's federal, it's local, is they're talking about a thing called public-private partnerships. And saw that last week talking to the commander. I got real excited because I've always wanted to do those. And when I was in the Air Force and I was interpreting and we were doing contracts, we did them that way. But in the U.S., people struggle with those. My goal is to intentionally find those small businesses here and say, we want you to partner with us for this project or for this task. And for example, when we're looking at how to build these things out, I don't know why we're hiring construction companies that aren't from here when we could be specifically focused on that and say, look, we're going to find those. I know, because I taught at CARC, I know the tech department, but I also know Dr. Charles Coleman over at UAPB and the Industrial Technologies department there. We should be partnering with those two folks for construction, for HVAC. Anything we're doing, we should be doing internally to give them internship opportunities while we are also building local relationships. And we can facilitate those. Obviously, if we're going to contract outright, we're paying for those. But I want to create those conversations between each other, among each other. Andrea, if you've been to Magnolia Market, what I like about promoting Magnolia Market is a space. I'm not promoting a specific business. There are 4 businesses in there right now permanently, plus what's called a pop-up kitchen. I go in and sit in Magnolia Market because I feel that space. And then there's sometimes I'll buy from Kylan's Kitchen. Sometimes I'll buy from Oasis Bistro. Sometimes I'll buy from Mexico Lindo. And sometimes I'll buy from Distill. But I don't just buy from one. I buy from them and I change around because I have those choices. I want to be able to make sure that we're working with local businesses first, local residents first, local folks. And if we do at the county level have contracts, we'd make sure that they are working with local residents and they're hiring. And again, it goes back to transparency. Who are you hiring? And what are you paying them? And do they live in my county? Because if not, and I'm the customer, I'm going to say no. I want you to think that way. And I think that's real important for you all to understand that we can do this. We can still do this well and do this less expensively, because at the end of the day, it's your money, folks. Remember, I've said this several times. You are voices. You're not just voters. You're voter, owner, investor, customer, employer, and stakeholder. So your voices are singing constantly. Every time you spend a penny in the area, or like Andrea said earlier, you take it out of the area to go on vacation, you are voting with that penny. And that's a really important thing to me. We want to attract your voices for all of your things in life. And I hope that we can get a chance to do that. And that's part of why I'm so intentional about promoting the local businesses. If you've looked at my campaign page, I will go around and say, who has the best meal here? Who has the best? I know that Underwater Seafood has the best salmon I've ever eaten, and I've got a lot of salmon, but the best hot dog I've ever eaten outside of Los Angeles Dodger Stadium is right there in Redfield. The best hot dog I've ever had. The best Western omelet I've ever had is at Lucky's Cafe. To be able to promote those businesses is not about getting endorsed by them. None of them, I don't know if they're going to vote for me. None of them donated in my campaign. Nobody's scratching me to get me to give them a compliment. If they earn the compliment, I give them the compliment. And that's where you're going to see is that kind of automatic service in everything that I do. And I'm not worried about anybody that had me as a teacher. I'm not worried about their vote. I know who they're going to vote for because they see me live this out every breath that I was taking in the classroom, during lunch, before and after school, and at every one of these events that they were going to. And going back to the business thing, when I go to the football games, I'm buying from the food truck outside, because I want to support the local businesses that way too. And I think it's real important that we have that much more formal, intentional relationship of how we can promote the local businesses. Some of you know so many of these good barbecue and food truck places that just haven't been able to make it. B2C2 or C2B2 and Ernesto's and Little Chris, even Colonial had to shut down just recently. Those things hurt because those are local and local only. And we should figure out ways to make sure that we can sustain them so that they're not only open, but they're profitable.
Amazing. Okay, so you have some stuff here. Do you want to tell me about what we got going on?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I have been doing on my own, and in case you hadn't known, folks, I do have 4 graduate degrees, but I'm currently unemployed intentionally. Okay. I wanted to focus on becoming judge, but in order to do that, I had to take a significant cut in pay. And so I'm only collecting my Air Force retirement plus a partial, not a full, just a partial Social Security. And so I've cut back. And in order to prove that it's possible, I cut back to the SNAP EBT standard of $6.24 a day. And so what I did was I cut out all, bags of chips. I cut out all, I love Popeye's chicken, but I cut out all buying that. So what I did today instead was to show you have to balance the money and time. Now I have friends that have gluten intolerances, so I buy white and yellow corn tortillas, and then I fry them. Okay, so there you go. Go ahead and taste one.
Yes, let me kind of show you.
There you go. Just made up.
My camera.
Now, what's really important about this is that this is 6, and again, I'm a math guy, so I'm going to do the math. It's 6 tortillas. It's basically flavored? 3 servings. Now, that's going to be fun. You're just going to take a bite.
They are not flavored.
They are not flavored. Not at all. So that way you can salt them any way you want, but they were fried in the same oil that I fry my chicken. And I buy the Tyson chicken leg quarters because it's $7.72 for 10 pounds. But that $7.72 leg quarter, and I can't bring out a raw leg quarter, but it splits into 2 full proteins at a meal. And so when you take that, and there are sometimes 6, sometimes 8 of those leg quarters in that $10, you're talking about 80 cents for the chicken, and you're talking about, in this case, about 30 cents for the chips. But you can salt them. You take them right out. Now, on the other ones, right after I made the tortilla chips, you can try some potato chips if you'd like. Okay.
Are these salted?
They are not. They are in the exact same fried thing. Here we go. Now, this is exactly 1 potato. And exactly 1 potato, roughly between 1/3 and 1/2 a pound, is roughly 50 cents. Now, these might be a little bit not as crunchy, because they cool down. But the point is, folks, that you can spend $10 on that 1 combo meal, or for $7, you can buy 1 gallon of water, 1 18-ounce jar of grape jelly, 1 16-ounce jar of peanut butter, and 1 20-ounce 24-slice loaf of bread. And you can make 12 sandwiches.
And what is the purpose of this? You're teaching us how to...
Well, when we're struggling with money, the struggle that we have in that combination of money and time is that we don't think we have time to eat or time to make our food because we're racing from one job to the other. So we stop and get the McDonald's meal in between. That's $10. If instead we change from the fast food life to the sandwich life, because we have a sandwich budget, we can get 12 sandwiches out of that same thing. Yeah, it takes a minute in the morning, but you can make 2 or 3 sandwiches for the day. Is it as tasty? No. I have my own rub that has all sorts of really great spices and stuff in it. But I've made those out of just onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper, and other ingredients being French Canadian. And so that's an important thing that you can do to still give your life flavor, but save yourself the coin that you need to save. And that's what I'm kind of hoping that you can learn is, for right now,
financial management.
Right. We have to go from living the fast food lifestyle to living the sandwich lifestyle until we can get to a place where we can save enough. If we can save $1,000 a year, that's $100 a month. And I say 1,000 is 100 because if we're out on the vacation, we're not saving for that month that we're there. And then during the holidays, we know we're spending a little bit for, Christmas gifts and things like that. So if we can save 100 a month, that's 1,000 a year. That can do some things. And that's what's important about just starting there. But we have folks that can't even save 100 a month. I got so upset when I first joined the school district locally when I found out that the paraprofessionals, I was getting paid $50 as a teacher with 15 years of experience. They were getting paid $10 to work, $10,000 a year to work the exact same hours that I was working. They were essentially being paid $8 an hour. And the district gave them the paperwork to submit for the subsidies for rent and for utilities. And then they gave them the paperwork for June and July to submit for no rent and no utilities. So they can't ever get out of the poverty system they're in. But these are people that were paid to teach your kids, and the district was only paying them 10. Now, the district 2 years later changed it to 16, but 16,000 for a full-time employee is still 2/3 of the poverty level.
Okay, so that's the problem. What is your solution as county judge? These are good. Let me stop, by the way. This was good. I just don't want to crunch all on my microphone. The potato chips were good. They were a little soft, but they were still tasty, even with no seasoning. So what I'm getting from that is, 1, you want to teach people how to budget. And then 2, you want to bring in the infrastructures and the businesses, the economic development, so that they can make more money. But until then, you want them to learn how to live better on what they already have.
Right. And I want you to understand, I'm not this, folks. Lots of people see this and automatically stop here, and they see my degrees and all this thing, and they think I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I'm not. And I'm making my own decision to live by the SNAP EBT dollar amount to prove that it's possible. And that's why I have a deep fryer sitting on my stove. I don't use my range. I don't have gas, so I don't use it. But I have the deep fryer. And if I can model this with you as a math teacher, then I can also share this with you. And we can make some great meals together and save that little bit of coin. In the meantime, I'm going to put my degrees on and go out of the county and go meet with the federal folks, go meet with the state folks, and carry all those degrees with me to say, look, I know what I'm talking about. Now let's bring the right businesses down here. And they're like, well, we need skilled labor. No. You don't need skilled labor to push pallets. You don't need skilled labor to stock shelves. You don't need skilled labor to pick warehouse orders. Let's bring an Amazon here. Let's bring those places here that need our blue collar. We have really good, I'm so amazed at the work ethic that I see in the adults that I see who are working 2 and 3 jobs to make the best thing possible for their kids. Well, what they don't have time for is they don't have time for their kids. And I hate to say it that way, but their kids are going home and not able to do homework because they don't have a parent home to help them with their homework because the parent's busting their butt getting that second or third job. We have to solve that piece. So one of my goals at the county, and this is one conversation I've already started having with one of the districts, but this is a conversation I will have with all the districts. You mentioned earlier about safe spaces. We already have some safe spaces. They're called schools, but they shut down at 3:30. But every one of you here that has a kid in school knows that school doesn't shut down at 3:30. You have band practice. You might have choir practice. You have athletics practice. You might have clubs, might, but those schools are open until 5. I want our after-school programs to go there because if you're busing kids to the after-school programs, you got to pay for all that. If they're all there And then we bring all those meals there. And then we save them right there. And then people can come right there. Why? Because the school was the safest place in your kid's day. It's supposed to be. And if we could have that conversation, and I can talk to all those other places and say, look, we're going here instead. Oh, I don't want anybody in my classroom. Okay, then we'll lock your classroom at 3:30, teacher, but we're going to use other places because they're still open. And that's what I want us to be able to start thinking about is how can we connect as communities? How can we connect as neighborhoods to use the spaces that are already there rather than trying to create new ones sometimes? And we can build those sense of community with these types of things. Sorry, I got to have a chip.
So, okay, so when you say you want after school activities to start going to schools, are you talking about the children whose parent can't afford to pay for after school tutoring and care? Like, who are you talking about? Like, are you trying to get organizations that are already in existence to come together with you to do this? What does that look like?
Well, specifically, one of the interactions that I had was with Miss Annette Dove and TOPS. TOPS is fantastic. It's got its own space out there. I think it's called Townsend Park. And in the summertime, they were coming, when I was working at the generator, they were coming to the generator and doing some things. But at 2.5 hours in, they had to leave because they were going someplace else. The generator was always a separate location that we could only do things after school. But we had a CNC router, we had laser engraver, we had 3D printers, we had technology, we had Chromebooks, we had all sorts of capabilities. But what we couldn't have was kids from 8 to 3:30. If we could have done that instead at their locations, we could have supplemented those places with fun things. There's another thing you're tapping into, Andrea. You can ask your students why they had so much fun in my classes. It's because we were doing things. We were doing stuff like this. I had one final exam where they had to color ice cookies, and they had to do it with colors of icing. We would create the projects that are hands-on types of things because kids learn with their hands. Most of us. There's tremendous research. I won't get into it, but we need to have programs and projects and classes where we can have people working on their hands again, with their hands again. We still have shops at some of the high schools. I think when they tore down these two and rebuilt the new ones, they took the shops out of them. But we have to have kids have things to do. And I'm not limiting it to just the kids that can't afford it. I'm saying we take those programs like TOPS and we say, TOPS, we would like your after school program to be right at that school rather than pick them up from there and I'll deliver them to someplace middle.
And if they don't want to do that, then what?
Well, then they can be on their own. That's fine. But consolidating campuses and services solves the side piece. Have you ever been to a multi-park amusement park? Have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World? Okay. Have you ever taken time to go from one park to the other during the day?
No, I think we gave each park its own day.
Exactly. And that's the right way to reteach people how to do that, because the park transfer takes about an hour to 2 hours. And guess what, folks? You're not on a ride. You're not in an amusement. You're busing from one place to the next. If we're busing kids from school where they're already at safe to someplace else, we're spending that time busing. They're not in there with an active teacher doing, any sort of tutoring during that time. I want to use that time. I want to say, look, you're with us at 7:30 and you're with us until 5. We'll be at school until 3:30 and then we're switching gears. Well, that's too long for my kid. It's not if he's an athlete or she's an athlete or he's a band member or she's a band member or they're choir, right? Because that's the after school program is different. Right. The after-school program should not be limited to the traditional thinking that we're using. It should open the doors of the school, like we open the doors of the church, and say, y'all come in now. We still are doing the security. We're still doing the vetting. And the districts are like, wait. Oh, well, I had an after-school program at the Focus Academy, and we still had a resource officer. Why couldn't we have left the rest of the building open? Well, we can't secure it. We can't? We had 2 resource officers for the entire Bel Air. Don't tell me that we can't secure it still just because we have a couple less teachers. We still have the same resource officer. So we have to have those conversations and they have to be intentional. If you're in Redfield and that library that's been converted to a community center is the place that everybody stops afterwards, then they all know that. And everybody gets bused there, that's that. Okay, if you're down in Villemont and there's not a whole lot in Raydale going on, but there's the country store that just opened up a month ago, and that's where they know they can bring the kids. And we have done the right, all the child maltreatment, all those other pieces so that everybody's there that's there. They can do that. But Whitehall has great facilities. We should be able to keep them open until parents are coming to get their kids or until, see, have you ever heard of latchkey kids? You familiar with that term?
I was one.
Okay. All right. When I was, in school, I was lucky enough that my mom chose not to work. Now, she was a pharmacist, but she chose not to work while we were in grade school level things. So we came home to a mom at the house and we studied. My dad was a teacher, so we had our study areas and we studied. I had lots of kids that came home at 3:30, parents not coming home until 5:30 and 6. 2.5 hours at the house. No parent, no supervision. No, this day and age, you're talking the internet and you're talking access to all sorts of possibilities compared to the, limited things that I had when I was a kid. We have to make sure that if you're a latchkey kid, you're not a latchkey kid anymore. If you're a latchkey kid, you're a community kid. And we're going to make sure that you're doing community projects. Or we're going to have you help them prepare the meals for the next day, because not everything has to be cooked that night. It could be prepared that night and cooked the next day. We could do those things. We could actually give them mini internships. At the junior high, I had kids learning how to make meals so that we could have a big Thanksgiving feast for the elderly of our school district. And they loved it. And they spent a couple of weeks leading up to it, getting ready and doing things like that. We need to do more of that as we connect in the county.
Okay, so we've talked about several things. We've talked about what's the first thing we talked about? We talked about so much. The very, very first thing was safety. We talked about safety. We talked about economic growth and bringing more money and revenue into the county. We talked about quality of life. We talked about partnering with small business owners to get some of these contracts and things done. Again, recycling the dollars here. And then I think we just wrapped it up with the education piece. Because education is in your background, I can see why you are passionate about ensuring that our future leaders have something to do, a place to learn, a place to grow, a place to be cultivated. We also spoke about potentially reaching out to organizations already in existence to bring them into this and creating some type of joint venture there if they're interested. They will not be forced, but you will open the floor up to conversation and communication about that. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
What's important for you all in the county to understand, folks, is that when I'm talking about my connections are the Monty Colemans, the Sidney Moncriefs, the Ernie Murrays, the folks that have brought stuff here before, that love and remember this place and want to bring it back and are looking for homes to find it where they can benefit as many as possible. And so that's what I want you, again, you go back after this and you ask yourself, do I feel safe currently? And if not, who is the best candidate that can bring in the best options, the largest number of options that I can believe in that could actually make me feel safer. And that's where I'm talking about at the level that I have the privilege of circling. I want to bring that type of intentional attention to your kids, because I'll leave you with this. We're in the middle of the Olympics. It's really neat when we're watching those Olympic athletes, and some of them are in their teens and some of them are in their 30s. But the cameras always know where the families are. And it's really, really special that Layla Edwards is being seen as the first Black hockey player. Well, I'm Canadian. We play hockey all the time. We didn't care about color. But her family's right there. What's really neat is we know that when your kids succeed at those levels, the trickle up happens. They're bringing you with them. We want your kids to have such a great experience they remember here that they want to pay for you, that they want to help make sure that you are getting your just flowers for how hard they know that you work so that they could do that. Right now, with a grade of F for Pine Bluff School District and a grade of close to F for Watson Chapel, they're not believing in that. They're not believing that this generation can help the next generation. We have to change that conversation, and they have to believe that we're stacked all the way from their family, all the way through the neighborhood, the little township they live in, the city they live in, all the way to the county level. And they have to believe in all of us as the adults, whether we are immediately in their lives, pastors in their lives, or county personnel in their lives, to help them make that. And I'm going to leave with that piece. They have to believe that crime's going away. And Andrea, I think you might have a picture In order for you to have crime occur, folks, you have to have three things that occur. You have to have an offender, you have to have a victim, and you have to have what is called the location or the absence of guardianship. Okay. What's interesting about this, and this is, you can look this up, this is very, very, very well-known research on what's called the crime triangle. If you remove any of those three pieces, you remove the crime. So I want to get in with our kids and make sure they're not victims. I want to get into their locations. I want to work with the sheriff to assign deputies or substations at certain times of day. Like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Jefferson Square is a pretty relaxed space. 2 o'clock in the morning, not so much. We have to know this. And rather than sit and wait for the 911 call to come in, we do what I call reverse 911. We know when it's going to be bad, so we send the guardianship to the location ahead of time, and nobody ever notices because nothing happened. That's what you have to believe in, that somebody can be thinking that way to go, wait, we can stop that? Yes. We can fix the lights on roads, or we can add lights to roads, or we can make sure, like I do at Magnolia Market, whenever I have a group that's finishing up at the end of the night, that last person closing the door and locking that door 20 feet from their car, they are not alone. And that's what's real important about changing our conversation, that you believe that we want you to be safe and that we will do anything. And I say we because I'm just a part of a team. And if I get the chance to be the judge, we will make all of that adjustment. We are here for your safety. We are here for your comfort. We are here for your joy, so that you will become the biggest recruiters of the county. You'll be the ones that say, you got to come because it's fun, it's safe, it's relaxing, and I can grow here. And that's what I want you to believe in. If you can't get past this, I got nothing for you. But if you can get past this, you can realize that I bring that absolute servant's heart. Notice I didn't say, even though my doctorate's in leadership, I didn't talk about leadership at all, because to me, this is not a leadership position. It's a service position. I'm here and want to be here to serve you. Thank you, Andrea, for the time today.
Absolutely. You hear his heart, you hear his passion. Early voting starts tomorrow. The actual election day is on March 3rd. Dr. Turley, thank you. It's always a pleasure. He gave me a fist bump, y'all. You couldn't see that. It's always a pleasure. You are truly one of the most brilliant men that I think I've ever come across. And
thank you.
Best of luck to you in the election. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share, comment below. I'm sure he'll go back and answer any questions you may have. And we will see you.
And feel free to stop by my house. It's 117 Friendswood. It's right north of Walmart. I'm that transparent. It's got the solar panels at the top. I make cappuccinos, but I also make chips. I'd be happy to sit on the front porch and chat with anybody about anything. And right now you'll see the carport's a little bit beat up, but that's because of the snow and ice that collapsed it. But hey, that's part of being real too. So I hope I get a chance to see you stop